So I came
Royce
across
Van
the Vox.
Oh yeah.
Does everyone know what Vox is?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is. I just see it.
Basically,
it's like a channel, innit?
It's basically like a YouTube channel that does like all these explain type of videos, but it's more like politically charged. So they do like obviously a lot about Trump, a lot about just social issues basically, right? And they teamed up with Netflix, and it's Wednesday today actually. But every Wednesday they're dropping a new episode of their Explain series.
Yeah.
So last week they dropped the one about monogamy, which I watched, and like, I mean, a lot of stuff they said that I low-key knew and agreed with anyway, but when it was put into that concise format, it really like fucked in my head a little bit.
Yeah, I watched it. I found it really interesting, and then I watched like another debate. Like,
what was the other debate?
It was like, I think it was the middle ground is where they got like people
Yeah,
from
I
one
saw
side
that.
and
I
people
saw
from
that.
the other side.
It's the thing where they're in like a big room in it, and they've
Yeah.
got like two spotlights.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're standing up, and it's
And
six
then they
people.
ask a question like
Yeah.
this, and then everyone that agrees goes and sits down, and then they discuss it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Again, you know the show he's talking about, the spotlight. I mean,
middle
ground,
ground.
I
I
think
think
that
it was.
one.
Yeah.
so basically the concept is there's 6 people, right, and it's split up into 3 people of one type. So there could be
A feminist group and
feminist
a
group
non-feminist
and a
group.
non-feminist group, or like a vegan and then meat
Meat
eaters,
eaters,
or so on
yeah,
and so forth, right? And then they ask, okay, I think being vegan is healthier. So just a random question like that, yeah. And then if you agree with the statement, you sit down and then you talk about it, and then people don't come later on. So it's basically like a kind of what we're doing here, like just like a little debate forum.
Right.
But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, no, I found it really interesting, some of the points.
So what was your takeaway thoughts?
I think, like, now I'm starting to understand why people can be like quite polygamous, like sort of in a way, like.
So before this point, you didn't see it as a possibility, or you thought it was just fantasy?
I couldn't basically before watching this and getting a bit more of an understanding. I didn't understand it at all. I would be like, wow, that's crazy. Like, what the hell? But it, like, I kind of understood the concepts before, obviously, but I didn't want to, like, obviously sort of agree with them, because we've socially been trained to be like, oh, there's
Possessive
one
and
true
jealous.
love, there's all of this, you have to be faithful. We've been trained this from like a young age. Like, a lot of us are from like religious families. There's a lot of religious background to it. There's also the legal
I'm gonna come
background
on
to
to
And
it.
just
later on
cultural as well.
Yeah, cultural as well, very cultural. Like, and on the legal side, like, marriage is practically a legal contract if you look at it that way.
Yeah,
So
literally.
yeah,
I know Oliver, me and you used to debate these sort of stuff a lot. Me and them lived together in second year uni. But like, did you watch the Vox thing?
Yeah, I watched it.
Has it changed your perspective on marriage, or has it changed your perspective of anything, or like what? Like what was your takeaway?
I mean, like, come back to me.
Zach, I know. Again, you're from a Christian background,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so that was gonna obviously impact a lot on the ways that you think about these sort of stuff.
Yeah. I'm still
Spinning.
I'm still
Yeah.
I'm still on the monogamy side. Like,
I
Yeah.
no doubt, but like,
yeah.
was there anything in there that you thought like, rah, like I never thought about it this way before? Because again, if you haven't watched it, I fully recommend
Yeah.
our whole YouTube
Yeah.
channel. But that specifically is very, very, it's eye-opening more than anything else.
yeah.
There was something they said about like I think it was on the middle ground one I was watching, and it was like why in a like relationship, like if you're having a polygamous relationship, why is it wrong? Like you have a best friend, like in the case of friends, you have a best friend, and you have many friends. You go for other things. So in a sense, if they have a primary partner, and they've got like other partners where they're going to for like
parallel.
like it's the same sort of thing. So why is it sort of being frowned upon?
Kofi, what was your takeaway?
Nah, I was just literally saying, yeah, but someone's always going to be not that happy in a polygamous relationship.
But if you're in a polygamous relationship
Can it
and
really
you're clear, if you're clear and open to it, then what's wrong? What's wrong with it? Like,
it's not
in
the
that
problem
sense.
of what's wrong. It's just on how every person involved feels.
Yeah, but if everyone,
they're getting their fair share.
if everyone's calm with it and you're transparent, then they know. And at any open time, they should be able to like walk
do they
about.
actually last long though? That's the thing. That's what I was trying to
I think
ascertain after watching the video. I know this polygamous relationships work and years to years, but can they actually be sustained for
full
longer than-
disclosure, from my point of view, yeah, I've never been particularly pro marriage anyway.
I hear your
and
point on
it's
that.
a thing of like, personally, again, I find it difficult when it comes to relationships anyway, where it's a point of like I'm like too. I've always said I'm too like concerned. Yeah, basically concerned about my, what I'm trying to do with myself and improving who I am as a person to ever really engage in a relationship just at this point in my life.
That's okay.
But
though.
it's a thing of when I watched this, when I watched the Polygamy Explained video, there's a lot of the stuff that I knew already and a lot of the stuff that I already agree with. And as I mentioned earlier, me and Oliver used to like debate this. I mean, we were going for like, I don't know how long, just back and forth about, what you should be doing, what you should and shouldn't do, why you should and shouldn't do it. Sorry. And it's a thing of like, at the end of the day, it's if the relationship works, it works. And there are some people who are gonna find I'll say 99% of people was gonna find that sort of arrangement extremely undesirable and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
However, that being said, like I don't necessarily think that this is an inherently bad setup to have, where all parties are, on the same page with it. And I think that's the only limitation to this agreement, is that you at the end of the day you all have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between having a non-consensual monogamous relationship where you're together, as you said, with a primary partner, but you've got basically side things.
Yeah.
And then you can be a swinging partnership where you basically, the two of you and your partner are going and have sex with another pair of people, and then I forgot the final classification. Are polyamorous, which is basically everyone with everyone, and it's free, even and equal. But I think a lot of the biggest issue people have with this is that it's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very like broad, and it doesn't deal with a lot of specifics of how it works. Only that this is what it is.
Yeah. What I also found interesting, is like there was a point like in life, in most monogamous like sort of relationships, like you have jealousy obviously in it. And why is it like by society, when in that case we look at this person is jealous and because of like their partner like talking to another person, that's because they really care about that person. But in other situations, like say if I was jealous of my younger sister for an achievement, that is frowned upon.
Can I put it in a different way?
Yeah.
Is that why is it that in every area of life, jealousy is frowned upon, except this one area,
exactly,
where it comes to your partner, all of a sudden being jealous is a positive thing. And for me, like that doesn't make sense.
When I was watching it, I was like, whoa,
that Shanbudi said that.
That was really
it
was really
I was like,
she's only reason why I know who that is because she's a sexologist from from Canada, but she chills with like Timothy Delaghetto and all their man from Wildin' Out. So like that's how I made that connection.
That's mad.
But there was also like
and
more
she's
mad.
as well, so that
There was also more mad things about like all of our biological features.
I think
and stuff.
The biggest thing about the Vox thing is that it looks at it from a strictly biological and sociological point of view. It completely ignores any religious aspects.
It was mad like when you were looking at all the features of like our closest like relatives.
The bonobos.
Bonobos was wild.
That part made me-
Yeah, exactly. Them man are wild. They'll have sex while they're cuddling. They'll just quick thing. But they'll say like the biological features, obviously, like we share a lot.
Closer to apes than to any other animal.
Like it's crazy, but
What I found mad was in Venezuela, like where they said that if a man has sex with a pregnant woman, he has to take care of the child.
Well,
that was in the hunter and gatherer.
That was so mad. But it brought goodness to the community.
Again, no, here's the thing though. It's like, go on, Karen.
It was those like who, the children that had like more fathers were the ones that ended up having better like life expectancy. So I mean, it can be good in some communities.
And here's the thing though, it's because from a strictly practical point of view, in fact, let me go back a step. It's the point where you reach from your mental biases into the practical reality of things is the bridge that people can't cross, in my opinion. Because again, to me, and this is a very like I can only speak from my personal opinion, that these it makes sense Like I don't have a valid argument why it's like it should polygamy or polyamory or whatever you want is
shouldn't be accepted,
vilified essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Except on the basis of religious arguments. But again, even then, I actually had to do quick Googles and stuff, and that from like a lot of the stories, whether it's in the Bible or the Torah or the Quran and this and that, a lot of the prophets are polygamous, and there's nowhere that I can find that it explicitly, prohibits or forbids polygamous relationships. That being said, there are many examples of polygamous relationships going wrong.
Yeah.
So you gotta balance it up and say that, like, cool, it's like,
it's what's simpler,
it's,
really.
yeah,
isn't it,
it's viable, but is it really workable? And that's
But
at the end of the day,
someone
that's
from
it.
a polygamous relationship would always go and talk to someone and say, like, look at you've had like 3 different marriages, you divorced them each time, and you're coming to me and saying, I've been faithful each time. That's you being faithful to the rule, not actually loving the person. That's where it can go wrong with like.
That is where the trick is, and it's the understanding and the emotional intelligence.
I mean, monogamy is a recent concept. Even in the video, it states it. Like,
Very
we've
recent.
gone from hunter-gatherers to like being agricultural, quite social beings, and that's when all of this has really come. And like, for me, in the past, it really was more a sense of sort of like marrying someone for like the workforce and the in-laws and all of that sort of stuff. But it's changed over time.
As in, like, marriage is a contractual relationship.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It went from more as a contractual relationship to more like, you need to find someone to love, and it's like gradually been changing. So if we've gone through them changes, we could go through the next change and possibly be more accepting of this. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna just go back to the whole religion thing. I don't feel so it doesn't talk about polygamous relationships before marriage. So because you know how like in the eyes of like Christianity and especially like Islam, sorry, all of that.
All of, like,
once you're married, done, dusted.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
you, that's you and them. So
I feel like you've misinterpreted that.
I might have, but the third part before marriage, like, it doesn't talk about polygamous relationships, like being with multiple people and stuff like that. But once you're married, having other people come into the situation, then it talks about that.
Nah, I think it says essentially you're talking about adultery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but adultery is simply having sex outside of marriage. It doesn't say you can't marry more than one woman. So I can marry like multiple women. Like, for example, in the Quran, like in Islam, allows you to marry up to 4 wives. But it's where if you're married to 3 wives and then sleep with another woman, that's adultery. Because
Marriage is between man and woman.
yeah, but no, the point is, like, if you engage with a woman who's not your wife, that's forbidden.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say I can't marry more than one woman.
Once you marry one woman, that's it. So you can't marry
but
two.
that's
that's
Christianity.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't marry
in
them at the same
Christianity.
time.
That's saying
I mean,
Christianity.
that's-
You're going on what's different religions.
Yeah, he's
now.
talking about Islam.
Alright, so,
So-
if I'm talking about Christianity, then
Yeah.
That's
But
I don't know
even
about
in
something like
Christianity, like, it's just like
There's still
I couldn't
variations
find
of
it.
Christianity.
Isn't it
Some people
till death do
don't
us
have
part?
sex until they're
That's-
married.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So-
made up.
Yeah.
The polygamy wouldn't apply then because they can't.
No, as in,
Hold
I'm
themselves.
saying that in even Christianity, I haven't seen where it says you can't marry more than one woman.
No, it doesn't say it, but that's what the institution of the church now has just, we've taken as face value as, okay, it's only one woman.
But that's what I'm saying, though.
Because of the state law and how close it was to the church. So, but you're right. You say it doesn't actually specifically say that in any of the books or any of the teachings. It doesn't say. It just says
it can be inferred. Like, there is a good argument to infer it, but again, I don't. Inference is suspect in my opinion. Like, if it's going back to the Bible again, right? You've got a lot of it is parables, right? And then there are hard and fast rules.
Yeah.
The 10 Commandments being an example of the hard and fast part, and again, but a lot of the inference comes from the parables. The rules part doesn't, like, polygamy is not mentioned. It says you can't commit adultery and that's it. But with the stories part of it is where people say, for example, a lot of in the Old Testament, for example, there's one example in the New Testament where it talks about positions of power, and when it's referring to righteous people, it says where a man who has taken one wife, and people interpret that to mean you can only have one wife. Or people look at the Adam and Eve story and use that as an example. And then they look at I think Solomon, who had like 700 wives and concubines, and he lost his way, and say that as an example of why he shouldn't. But again, these are just like stories and not hard and fast rules. That's why I'm saying that I haven't, like, these are just the judo, the Abrahamic faith. Sorry, I haven't really looked at anything else, but just those specifically. That's what I'm saying when it comes to the vilification of what it is to be polygamous. It is culturally, religiously driven rather than anything else. Because in practice, the example of the hunter-gatherer species that Alex is talking about, the hunter-gatherer stage of humanity that Alex is talking about, lasted for 100,000 years. Where I saw one statistic that was saying that over 85% of relationships at that point were polygamous. But it's only really been since we've transferred from hunter-gatherers to agricultural over the last 10,000 years that we've really been dedicated towards one man, one woman relationships. And then out of that 10,000 years, apart from the last 150 since the Age of Enlightenment, all of that, marriage was simply a way to get in-laws and property. Like a woman traded marriage for security, and a man traded marriage for like money, basically, like prestige and position. And only in the last 150 years when marriage has been, basically women's equality essentially has become a thing, that we've then changed from it being an institution of contractual relationships to one of just one out of love. But then what's happened is, again, this is just maybe my unpopular opinion, is that rather than giving women the same liberties that we give men, we've restricted men's liberties to in the interest of equality, to make it the same as women. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying that's what's happened. That's beyond that, it's up for you to decide.
Wait, say that again about the equality. Sorry, I just want to be clear on that.
So I'm saying that over the last 50 years, when in marriage has gone from an institution of essentially one of contractual relationships and trading a woman got married for the security, right? And a man got married for the in-laws.
Yeah, I know that, but in
a nutshell, right? So after like last 150 years of the Age of Enlightenment, and then the pursuit of women's equalities, as in the equal treatment of men and women, rather than liberating women to act as freely as men were doing, because let's not be mistaken, even though men were married, they still had their sightings. So rather than
being polygamous,
saying that women can act like men, we're saying men has to now behave in the same way that women acted.
It's a control mechanism.
Not acted, but the same rules that constrain women are now applied to men.
And
it's a thing of jealousy and possessiveness and
control.
But these are negative emotions, in my opinion.
You could even see it when people say, like when a guy sleeps with multiple women, and regarded amongst like his friends,
boys, the man.
He's the man.
Get what you're saying, 100%.
But you get bad things in that.
She's shamed.
Teach me, bro.
Exactly. But it's the complete
getting the spots. You come in the next day.
I'll make that thing,
Exactly.
Let me not talk about that life still.
Number one suspect, problematic guy.
Have you seen the videos where people are talking about like body count and stuff? And it's like normally with guys, girls normally expect a higher body count. But it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And if the guy asks to go, how many people have you been with? And she's like, three, or
you have to multiply by 3.
Somewhere around 5. No, can't do it. Because this whole thing about it's all right for a guy, but it's not all right for a girl. Yeah.
And I think that's residual of the attitudes we had,
period.
The liberation of women, essentially.
We still technically have them, to be honest. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Those are attitudes that are residual from that period.
Yeah. And it's upsetting, but that's just how it is. And marriage obviously was a patriarchal act, and I still think it is. That's why I'm with you on not being so pro-marriage, because it still fights to the fact that the man owes the woman.
No, I just,
yeah, man. Before we wrap, what are you saying, Oliver?
I just think a lot of women nowadays don't even want marriage as well, cause like it's not even just.
I don't know about that, to be honest. I hear a lot of girls screaming about when this.
See, when I get my husband, I'm ghosting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a man. He's gonna take me here.
We're
We're gonna do this together,
We're gonna
which
go
is great.
here.
There's a good want to have that companionship, to do things and grow with somebody.
Yeah, but you can't grow with other people. Like Alex said, you got friends. Like you got a bag of friends.
But okay, no, you're right.
Yeah, all
But
our
how well are you
relationships,
gonna
we're
get to know
learning
them friends?
people. We learn from every friend we interact with. We learn so much. So
And you don't see, I've known you, man. For like I don't know, like 4 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we've grown a lot.
I've known you for Zach for about a year as well. So it's like, we grow together, and it's not a thing of like, and I can share my successes and failures with you guys, and it's cool.
Yeah.
It's not a thing of like, I'm not going to do it unless I get married in this. But again, it's just strictly, again, I don't even think it's religious anymore at this point. I just think it's strictly cultural.
yeah.
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 There was something interesting in a study. I think there was a study that showed like non-monogamous like populations had like higher levels of satisfaction, function, commitment, passion.
I don't
And-
even know how they come up with these statistics in the
It-
first place.
I don't know
So-
how. It's questionable.
that's all
But
qualitative. Where you gonna
apparently,
get
it's all
numbers from that?
qualitative data and all of that. It's not really quantitative. And they had lower levels of jealousy and higher levels of trust. Is something I found interesting. But
Because
I think I've seen.
yeah,
Because humans
Yeah.
can't
How
help.
big are those communities though, and populations though? That's the
No,
thing.
I remember. I think if Alex is referring to the same study that I saw, they looked at I think a few thousand monogamous people and like around 600 or so polyamorous people,
Yeah.
or non-consensual monogamous people essentially.
yeah,
Yeah.
And that's what they found.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, those are pretty decent numbers. I mean, not as big as you would like them, but they're big numbers still.
Yeah.
no, they are. They're big numbers.
People
And if
will
you think
be-
of the statistic, I can't remember what year it was, but it said that 2.2 million Americans got married. This is in Oxford.
800,000.
Got
And
divorced.
800,000 got divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
when you think
this-
about it, look at all that wasted money, wasted time, and
Imagine
It's
that's
the argument of
800,000
you're
euros.
the
Be monogamous to you're being like attracted, or you take monogamy more seriously than you do the relationship.
yeah.
You're more committed to being
And
monogamous than you are to the person you're monogamous
basically
with.
doing polygamy like over a period of time.
yeah.
I can understand.
So,
They're doing
but,
checkpoints.
you know,
I can understand
Like
that.
Mario Kart.
I can understand that
Yeah.
study about like people who have multiple,
yeah,
like being happy and
Yeah.
having more trust and being like more satisfaction, like being happier or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a biological thing
no, we have to be.
with humans,
We have
especially
we seek that
especially
desire.
guys.
Yeah, among men specifically.
You're with your girl. You see a girl walk past, you're gonna turn around.
There's no way you're
that's-
not checking.
That's
something.
that's
There was
that's
one
just
guy,
like
one of those things of saying I trained myself not to.
I
I
was
was
thinking
like,
this motherfucker's
you
a liar.
silly, you
You
silly.
liar. And the thing is, his girl believes him.
Yeah, you know what? As much as like guys may not want to, it's like it'll
If
be
I
in your
see a
head.
fat
It'll
ass
be in your
like
head. It'll spark in your
walking,
head.
I'ma turn my head.
Exactly.
Go or no go, I'ma turn my
Don't
head.
wife
Do you,
chills.
do you guys think then
watch
that marriage will still be like a main thing like as we get older? Because I feel
As in,
like
like in the following generations.
yeah,
For religious
It would
people, yes.
I feel like it will
Yeah.
Outside
decrease.
As long as religion
Yeah.
I
is
think
there,
it will decrease, but it will remain because of religion, culture.
Yeah, outside of
Yeah.
religion and those cultures where if you're with someone else, we're gonna chop off. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's it.
Oliver, the law would have to change.
One time.
The law would
Yeah.
have to change.
yeah.
If they allowed polygamous relationships, the law would
I
have
can
to
see that
change.
happening though.
The law would have to change for that
Yeah.
for it to
Like,
decrease.
I
And
can
not-
see that
I don't like how they
so
say that.
The
UK is some-
You'd have to have
church
a
within the
political
country or
party
whatever.
that
This
really
is-
pushed
Yeah.
that.
It's-
Yeah,
it's-
we're
yeah,
secular
you're
society
right.
now.
Secularism
Secular
also.
I
society,
can
yeah.
see a party like Lib Dems pushing something like that.
No, I can't lie. What,
don't
know. I'll
there
be the
might be
Green
a party
Party
within
first.
the next
Yeah,
10
Green-
years.
nah, actually, yeah, Green Party.
I'm telling you right now,
Probably Green Party, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, but look, it's just whatever you're comfortable with. But here's my thing: is that I really like this whole jealousy thing. Really jars me. Maybe it's just because I'm wired differently or something. But I just feel that the whole thing about being possessive. First of all, like the thing that jars me the most is having the idea of somebody saying, "Oh, he's mine."
Yeah, that's
Fuck
what I
off.
agree with you. Totally agree. I agree with that.
Oh my days.
He's mine, she's not. You belong to me. And traditionally, it was the man who was like,
my days.
the woman is mine. That's not
Veins
right.
pop.
That's not actually empowering her or giving her
Right,
any
right.
rights, is it?
Yeah.
It's not. So, I
So go
definitely
back to
down-
Oliver again. He's trying to hide out here, and I'm putting him on the spot, fam.
Go on, boy.
Well, ask me like I don't know. Like it's,
Okay, so when someone says, if a girl says, "Oh, you're mine," and it all sounds very possessive. You're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Nah, he's gonna be, that's mad cute.
How you feel?
How
you feel?
Well, I mean, like, if I'm in a relationship with her, then obviously
I don't think there's a problem with that.
it's no, yeah, there's no issue with it. If you're in a relationship, like,
I find it so jarring. Like, I've been in situations where
I mean, it gets there would be a limit. Like, if it's a regular occurrence, when you started to think, this chick is a bit mad.
Nah,
but don't you want to be loved? Don't you want to be known?
No,
don't
you do.
You
do.
You're wanted.
Pause.
Sorry, not loved. Wanted.
That's not mad.
Yeah, your pencil case. Is that your girl?
That sounds
pencil case.
Everything is fine within reason.
But if you're
It's the
hers and she
extremities
is
you
yours,
don't want.
yeah.
that's the argument you could pose.
That's what Izzy's saying.
Huh?
That's what Izzy's saying.
But that's the thing is though, like, I'm not yours, I'm mine. Like,
Yeah.
Of course.
I don't like
But
to.
then someone will
No, I
turn
hear you, I
around to you,
definitely
say
hear you.
that
You
their
don't belong to
relationships for
anyone
both
and
of them
nobody
to
belongs
grow
to you.
together and all that
Sorry,
nonsense.
I think the whole thing is that no other girl can kind of come to you because that's like he's with me.
Then you see all these wild
Yeah, I
places,
think
like
it's
you're
more
chatting to this
towards the
girl on
same
IG.
sex.
You're liking her
Like,
pictures.
I don't necessarily think it's, well, unless you swing both ways, but it's more towards the same. Yeah, there's no wrong there, but I'm just saying.
Just to clarify, I do not.
I don't know why.
Sure, is he? Sure.
To clarify that, but
Sweating.
Is that sweat? I
Is
see?
it a bit sweaty?
There's some condensation on the window, bro.
yeah, but it's more towards the same sex. I don't think it's like they're doing it more, say, to tell you, like, oh, yeah, no, well. Yeah.
Do you know what I hear the biggest thing is though? Is that whenever I have this conversation with somebody, they tell me, "Oh, you got commitment issues," and I'm like, "Alright, you know what? Yeah,
Maybe you just haven't found.
no.
someone
Here's the
that
thing.
you
Here's the
vibe
thing.
with
I
like that.
hear that a lot as well. But like I say to them, "Alright, cool." The same way I might have commitment issues, the same way you might have dependency issues. That's the way I see it.
True. That's
Hit with the
Totally
yeah,
agree.
That's true.
That's
true.
I don't know, that's what I see. And if you're cool being you, I'm cool being me. That's it.
Yeah, that's
But,
true.
but is it just because they really want somebody? Not really want. They want to call somebody theirs. That means that they're dependent on them.
No, I feel like someone's trying to
genuinely,
replace their parents, so that's why they.
I genuinely think that people just don't want to be alone. Like, you don't want to grow old and be like in a house
Us
by
as
yourself.
humans,
Some
we always
people-
want to group ourselves with, like,
If you're
whether it be
old
with
and
friends,
you're in a
whether it
house
be
by yourself,
friends,
that's low key.
whether it be a
fam.
partner,
Pick up
you
the
want to
phone.
group yourself with someone, and like if that group happens to be just you and that person, I can see why like marriage is like this. But yeah, I think that's really the main reason. Us humans are just needy.
Yeah.
We need it, and we like people who are reflective
That's
of
my
us.
issue. Like, it's going back to the football thing about you talking about thousands. Just because you're needy doesn't mean that it's okay.
Yeah, no, that's
you should
very
never
true.
act on a position of, in my opinion, you shouldn't come it from like that's almost a thing of weakness, saying that I need, I can't live without this, and it's like, bro, like just like
Yeah, but then you're taking away people's emotions.
people keep saying this to
No,
me,
you
bro.
are,
I'm
though.
not, fam.
No, you are.
I'm not.
You're just
saying,
thinking logically.
I'm saying being big.
No, because you are thinking logically. You're not thinking like human beings have emotions. Like, so it's like
I don't doubt that. But
so it's like
people feel lonely at sometimes. It happens. Like shit.
Yeah, that's right. But you don't want to feel
But you-
lonely for the rest of your life.
yeah, exactly.
And
don't-
you get a lot
Even
of women.
okay, no, but even
Unless you've
when you're with somebody, there are times where you still feel lonely.
That's true.
Yeah.
So like being with someone doesn't solve that problem.
Yeah, but that's why you
That's why you find. That's why
you keep looking until you find that one.
wait.
You
Wait.
keep looking until you find the
Become
right
friends
person.
first.
Huh?
Become
Friends
friends
first.
first. Become best friends. Then it's calm.
Yeah.
Then
But we
become
don't
best
really
friends
live.
and friends
We live
with
in a
benefits.
society where you can do that, or
Oi,
you just rush into
if
it.
any listeners want to audition to be Izzy's things, go ahead.
Listen, my DMs are open, but
You
just
know
know
what
that
his
if I
DMs
clap
is?
back here,
As long as they're not angry DMs, he'll
I think the
respond to
listeners
above
want to
thing.
know
Yeah.
what all your guys'
I
Instagrams
will
are.
take you seriously.
Boys, I think the listeners want to know what your Instagrams are, so they can match the face to.
Oh
a
yeah,
voice.
quickly.
I don't even know.
Chills.
They want to check
Your
you.
wait, ACL 17 on. Is that right?
Wait,
It was
on
off by heart.
Instagram, I wanted to give a little message here. I'm the most untrash guy. If you heard any of
Nah,
my
I won't lie
stuff,
to you.
I disagree.
I'm the most
I think
untrash guy. So, ladies, hit
Hey,
up the
can I just
DMs.
say the fact that he has to
The fact
put
you're
that
saying
out.